Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Vista Votes. This is our final interview with the state candidates, and I want to welcome Martin Quezada to the Vista Votes platform. Welcome, Mr. Quezada.
Hey, it's good to be here.
All right. So once again, everyone, Vista Votes is an initiative that we have so we can make sure that we have the best and the most well-informed electorate here in Cochise County. So you guys have an opportunity to meet the candidates who are going to be representing us on the state and local levels, right? Once again, we want to let everyone know that we are nonpartisan. We have reached out to candidates on both sides of the aisle, and we are interviewing the ones who have responded back to us. So without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to Martin Quezada, and he is running for Arizona State Treasurer. So, Mr. Quezada, tell us, what does the State Treasurer do?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know what the treasurer does. This is an office that definitely flies under the radar and doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but it does three main roles. You're the chief banker of the state of Arizona, you're the chief investment officer of the state of Arizona, and you're the chief financial officer of the state of Arizona. You bank the money, you invest the money, and then you talk about the money to the whole state government and to the state of Arizona.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's very interesting being in my position after now having interviewed individuals running for Secretary of State, running for Arizona Corporate Commission, just the way that everything kind of flows and runs together in a sense, right? It's very interesting. And I had the privilege of watching your debate alongside the current Arizona State Treasurer, and even just from that debate, I learned so much. One of the things is just like you said, the investments that the treasurer makes and how that secures Arizona's future, right? It brings in a lot of revenue for education and things of that nature. So if you were, I apologize. Let me take a step back. I got excited because I really like this position, right? So tell us about yourself. Who are you? Why did you decide to run for state treasurer, and what's motivating you?
I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Maryvale part of town, Maryvale and Peoria, where I went to school. My mom immigrated to this country from Mexico. My dad's a Vietnam veteran, I was a product of our public school system. I ended up working in politics after I got out of college. That motivated me to go to law school. After law school and after clerking on the Court of Appeals, I got back into politics after working in the field for a little bit as a research analyst, but this time as an elected official. And so I first got onto a school board back in the 2010 election, and then I got appointed to the House of Representatives in 2012. I later won in 2012 for that same seat. And then in 2014, I got elected to the Senate, and I've been reelected there in 16, 18, and 20. And so I've been in the legislature for the last 10 years, full time, and practicing law full time on the side as well. And I was approached. I'm terming out of the Senate, which means it's my term limits. I can't serve any longer after this year. And I was approached by a group of county treasurers, and they asked me to consider running for the state treasurer position. I had never considered that before, but they told me to just take some time, research it, look at it, and talk to some people. And I did that. And I looked at the treasurer's office, and I realized that there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of good work for people. And I knew it was going to be a tough race, especially to win a lower profile office, especially against an incumbent. But I like challenges, and I've overcome challenges all my life. And so I thought this is the next big one. And so I want to get in there, and I want to do good things for the people of Arizona in this office.
Wow. Okay. So tell us, you said you served on school boards, you served on the state level in multiple office. What are some of the things that you're proud of that you were able to accomplish in those positions?
I think a lot of my work on the school board has been some of my most beneficial, and I'm still on the school board now.
Wow.
I've served for the last 12 years, and that's been some of my most beneficial because that's the most local. That's when you're touching people, you're right there in your neighborhood, and you're talking about the thing that values most to them, their kids. And getting kids to school safely, getting them well fed, making sure they're healthy. So doing work in my school district, I think, has been some of the most rewarding work that I've done, and improving the school and giving them a quality public education in my district. As a legislator, I'm really proud that I have become a trusted voice for my caucus, for the rest of the Senate and for Democrats, in both legislative chambers. I've been a voice that they can rely on to be that voice for all of the most controversial or the most difficult or the most challenging issues that our state has been facing. I've been the one that gets up and debates those issues. And I'm really proud of my voting record for all of them. And I think I've done some good work in that role too.
Excellent. And you spoke about still serving on the local level. And just a kind of a tidbit, when I'm calling all the individuals to see who's gonna come on an interview, you were one of the only ones that actually pick up the phone yourself. And I was really taken aback by that. I was expecting an intern or something. And that really stood out to me. In my mind, I was like, wow, he's really available, he's really approachable, and I appreciate that. All right, so you've done a lot of great, you've accomplished a lot, you're still serving locally. It seems like education is your focus. And when I was watching your debate, that was one of the major issues, right? Is how that those investments that you make trickle down back into our education system and help fund those kind of things. So, and that was one of the major issues on your website, on your platform, was education. So describe to me, what is the vision for education in Arizona, right? We're 48th, we're 49th, depending on where you look and what you're looking at. What is it going to take? Is it more money? Is it a structural change? In your personal opinion, what do you think it's going to take?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because a lot of people ask that, and you're right. Like, we're either 48, 49, 50, 47. We're at the bottom. We're at the very bottom of the rankings for the whole nation. We've been that way for several years now. The problem here, it's honestly, it's not a structural problem. There's not problems with the system. There's not problems with restructuring it. We have been cut and underfunded for so long that literally the solution is money. Because we've been so underfunded for such a long time. And I can tell you that from experience, after serving at that local level and seeing that we just don't have enough money to pay teachers. And teachers, we have massive shortages of teachers because they can't make a living with the little money that we pay them. And we can't pay them anymore because the state doesn't give us money. So we really need to invest. And we need to invest heavily in our public schools in order to get us even into the middle of the pack. It's going to take a lot of money to get us there, where we can start looking at other things and addressing other issues. But until we address the money, if we address all those other issues, they're not going to make any difference at all. Even if you improve them drastically, it's still not going to make a difference without the funding behind it. So the answer is absolutely funding.
It's interesting. I like to study economics in my spare time too, right? And there's a saying, it's like, you can't save your way into wealth, right? Like, you have to invest, you have to start bringing in other streams of revenue. And when we're talking about our education, that seems to be the center point of everything. And having the opportunity to speak with Ms. Hoffman, that was one of the issues, right? We need more money. We have to invest back in our education system. So as state treasurer, how do you plan to do that?
Yeah, so as the state treasurer, I think I've got a great opportunity to address that issue. And this is one of the things that appealed the most to me about this office. You have over $65 billion worth of money that's part of your portfolio that the treasurer manages for the state of Arizona. 65 billion with a B. And the majority of the returns on those investments go to our public schools. So if you're really investing with a motivation to increase that funding to schools and to maximize the return, the yield on those investments, you can actually put together a stronger portfolio that brings in more money, so that we don't have to tax people, for that. And that's it's literally making the money that we already have work for us in a better way. And I would be completely motivated by increasing the funding to our schools. So that would be my number one focus in creating an investment portfolio. That's not going to solve all the problems for sure, but it will certainly help in terms of bringing in more money to our schools without having to take away from anything else.
Okay. So, and that's great in the terms of education, but there's so many things that need to be funded throughout the state, right? Infrastructure, whether it's your roads, whether it's infrastructure as far as fiber, whatever have you. Does the state treasurer impact that? Do you manage those funds that goes into that as well?
So yes, in a way, the treasurer can invest that $65 billion the treasurer can invest in different types of things. And a lot of them are safe, stocks and bonds through the government. But we can invest in corporations as well. We can invest in companies that are supporting Arizona. We can support in corporations that are investing in Arizona and bringing jobs to Arizona and promoting green energy, moving towards solar energy, corporations that are conserving water, corporations that are paying their employees a living wage. We can move our money towards those corporations that are treating their employees well, treating the constituency that they serve well, and the communities that they reside in, treating them well as well. And so when you do that, you can have an impact on all of those things and increase the cleaner energy sources that we're trying to bring into more full swing in Arizona. And we can increase the corporations that are just treating their communities better as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. I didn't really draw that conclusion, but listening to the debates and research in this office, but you're absolutely right. Depending on how you use those money and invest in other companies, that opens up opportunity and for them to come to the state and create more jobs. There's almost a ripple effect of who's supporting them, and they're going to, in a sense, support you as well. So let's take an opportunity. Let's go to your website. Give me 1 second. Let me load it up here. All right. Ooh. All right, everyone. And you can go to his website if you want to look at it with us. It is martinquezada.com. And here you'll find out more about the candidate. You can go to meet the candidate, find out what he's doing in the media, look at his press kit. You can look at his priorities and what he looks to accomplish while he's in office, as well as individuals who have endorsed him and how you can get involved and support the campaign. So let's look at some of the priorities. We spoke about education right now, investing in our future, and then transparency. Tell us a little bit more about how you plan on being more transparent in that office.
Yeah, I believe whenever you are entrusted with the public's money, and this is not my money, it's not the state of Arizona's money, it's the people's money. So it's really your money that you're trusting to me. I'm the bank for the state of Arizona. So when I have that big of a responsibility, I believe we should be completely transparent about where that money is going, how we are investing it, and if those investments are performing well or not. So the way I want to become more transparent is by putting all of that information out there to the public in simple terms that everybody can understand. And so that you don't need like an accounting degree to understand it. You don't need to dig through 800-page PDF files or Excel spreadsheets to understand it. I want to put it out there in simple terms that everybody can understand so that you can hold your policymakers accountable. So that's all about communication, and that's all about education. And so that's part of like a financial literacy effort that I want to run as well through that office, and just teaching people how to understand how their money is or should be working for them.
Okay, interesting. And right now, do you feel that, well, naturally you want to make it more transparent, but do you feel that in that office, the current state treasurer is actively working to do that, or do you think it's the counter, right? They're just trying to make things a little bit more complicated. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think unfortunately the data that we need to understand our state's finances and to hold our leaders accountable, it's all there on the website, but it's in such a confusing format, and it's so hard to dig and find it. It's like intentionally hidden in plain sight, so you would have to spend hours on that website downloading information, sifting through it to try to make sense of it. So my goal would be to simplify all of that so that it isn't difficult to find out where your money's at. And that's I think key to being transparent, because then what that allows her to do, my opponent, it allows her to pick and choose which elements of her portfolio that she highlights. And so she can highlight the great things and then hide the bad things. I think that you should be fully transparent about all of it.
Right. Okay. And we do a little software development down here in Sierra Vista and Cochise County, my company, Northern Computing. And one of the things that we're really interested in, right, is blockchain. Would you be interested in the sense of putting this on a blockchain so we can see how everything is moving? Have you thought about that, or where do you see the future of this office going?
Yeah, I think that those are all things that we need to be looking at. And then part of what the treasurer does is invest in things that are going to carry us into the future, right? So you want to be looking down the road at what the future holds in everything from energy to technology to education to the way we protect our environment. So all of those things are things that we need to be considering and thinking about now so we can get ahead of the curve and do it safely, responsibly, yet be ahead of the curve in terms of technology and the use of all of that so that we can better serve the people of Arizona.
Right. And, relying on the markets and the investment, sometimes that can be very volatile, right?
Yes.
And in your debate, you spoke about there's I believe, I don't know if I want to say a state law or a mandate, at least within the office, that you can only invest X amount of percent of the funds into one particular company, right? To, in a sense, make sure that your investment strategy is a little bit safe. And it appears that your opponent isn't following that, right? So how would you change that to make it more secure to protect those dollars?
Yeah, and so I mean, basically, what that means is that for one pool of funding, you don't want to put all of your investments into just one area, right? Because then, if or one corporation, for example, because if something goes wrong with that one corporation, with that one investment, you have the possibility of losing a lot of money. So when you create a portfolio, you want to spread that money out over a bunch of different areas so that if you do take a loss in one place, it's not going to destroy the whole portfolio. You're not going to lose a lot of money. You can make up for it by better performance in another area. And so ultimately, you want to move towards the stronger ones and move away from the weaker ones. But you need to be diverse and have a lot of options in order so you can move in that way. So what's happening here in the treasurer's office is she does have limits that her office implemented on what percentage of that pool of money can go to just one corporation, for example, and she's actually violating her own standards by putting more of the investments into that one investment area than her policy allows. And so what that's doing is it's limiting the diversity and it's limiting the options that she has in terms of where our money goes. And so what that means is that if something were to happen to that one investment, something bad, something dramatic, Arizona would have a potential of losing a lot more money than we would have if she were more responsible in spreading that out more.
Okay, wow. So what are some of the limitations of this office? Do you guys provide loans for businesses or for other municipalities? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a lending institution itself, but I think that the treasurer can be a huge advocate for those types of things, and the advocate for things like a public bank that can provide those resources to underserved or underfunded parts of our state, be they geographic parts of our state or like communities of color that don't get the type of investment that they need, or those small businesses that don't have access to a lot of that funding. Those are the types of things that a treasurer can advocate for because that helps all of our economy, because that helps build all. And when we're all successful, we all prosper. And so as a treasurer, I would be an advocate for policies, for programs that are going to help everybody be successful financially. So those are exactly the types of things that I think the treasurer should be front and center and should be speaking loudly about and communicating that to the public and communicating that to the policymakers in the legislature and in the governor's office as well.
Okay. And when you're speaking of investing like the state's money, are you investing city monies? Like, does it all come into one pool? How does that look like? Where do these funds come from that you invest?
Yeah, so they come from a few different areas. There's actually a whole lot of different areas. But to simplify it, a lot of it is tax revenue that the state collects. Some of it is tax revenue that your local governments collect, your cities or your counties, and they can choose to invest that money at the state level. And we kind of entrust that money to us to invest it for them. So we do that with a lot of cities and some of our counties as well. There's also like money that comes from the sale or the lease of public lands that the state of Arizona has. We lease a lot of that land, we sell a lot of that land, and then that money goes into a trust that the treasurer manages and invests as well. So there's a whole lot of different sources of this money that the treasurer's in charge of. And there's so many that it would take really forever to kind of go through all of them. But those are really the main ones.
Okay. So I think last year, Governor Ducey unveiled his water sustainability plan, right, for the next 100 years. I was it 100 or 1,000 years, something like that. And it was part of that is a water desalinization, right, coming from, I believe, Puerto Payaso, Mexico, all the way up into Phoenix. And water is probably the number one issue here in Sierra Vista and Cochise County. So where's the governor going to get these funds to do this? Right, it was like a $1 billion or $1 trillion plan. Does this come from the money from the state treasurer's office, and then the state Congress and Senate they pass it? How does that work?
No. So where that money came from is this is the money that the legislature is working with, and the state legislature. Again, this is money that comes into the state via taxes, via the state revenues, and some of that is managed by the treasurer. But it's what's in the state budget. This is what the policymakers, the money that they have to play with to enact the laws for the state of Arizona. And so what the state legislature did, and that I was part of that as a member of the Senate, is they took over $1 billion of that budget, and they invested into that water program that Governor Ducey created. And so that was legislative money. Now, a lot of that money will be managed by the legislature, but that was directed, or it'll be managed by the treasurer's office, but it was directed by the state legislature.
Okay, so your guys' office, and this just for everybody to clarify, doesn't necessarily or at all create the state's budget. You're just, like you said, the chief banker. You're investing and making sure that money grows to support other things.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so that's something that I think a treasurer has to help the community, our society, our voters understand is who is the one that's responsible for creating the actual budget. And that's
Right.
the legislature. That's the legislature and the governor. Once they create that budget, then I manage it and I invest it as the treasurer. But it's the legislature that creates that budget.
All right. Well, once again, everyone, please post your questions. We have Martin here. This is your opportunity to speak with him. Let's talk about how your position will impact rural communities. How does the state treasurer impact rural communities like Cochise County, like Yuma County, all of those places?
Yeah, in a couple of ways. I think one, the obvious one is how you make your investment decisions. I believe we should be investing locally whenever we can and helping strengthen Arizona economy. That means Arizona businesses. That means Arizona small business. That means investing in our rural counties as well. We can invest there. There are businesses starting there as well, and we should be supporting them. So I think that there's ways we can invest in Arizona and keep Arizona money in Arizona. That should be the focus, I believe, of our investment portfolio. But number two, I think our financial literacy efforts. I think we can spread a lot of that to individuals, to our schools, to small businesses, to our elderly population, all of them in rural Arizona, and help them become more financially secure and help them help themselves become financially secure with the money that they have. And I think that's a matter of the state treasurer getting out to those rural communities, working with those rural leaders, working with those communities directly, and developing those programs and actually implementing those programs.
So the state treasurer's office can create more, in a sense, financial literacy campaigns throughout the state?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think that should be the focus of the treasurer's office. And so that would be a big part of what I do. I think that would be, right now, it's nothing more than a link on a website. And there's not a whole lot more to it than a few helpful links. But I think we should be going out to the communities and really ramping up those financial literacy efforts. Again, like children need to learn, young adults, young families, small businesses need to learn. And if they do learn how to be more financially stable, how to manage their finances, they'll be more successful as businesses, and they'll survive past that first or second year when most businesses kind of crash and burn. So we can help them survive and thrive as businesses.
Well, let me tell you personally, Mr. Quezada, I will hold you accountable to that. If you win, I will be there asking for you to come and help sponsor and bring that education. So I'm excited about that. So like you said, you've served for years, right, in different capacities. What has been different for you this year campaigning versus in the past?
The big part is just the immense size of the state. The state of Arizona is huge. Just the amount of driving that I've been doing, and I represented a district of 250,000 people for the last 10 years. Now I've got a whole state of Arizona, that's millions and millions of people. And so and just the amount of miles that you have to travel, and really the differences of the communities throughout all of Arizona. All of Arizona is different. Every rural county is different. They all have different cultures. They all have different values. They all have different, expectations of what their elected leaders should be and should do. And it's been great to learn all of that and to learn from them, because I think that a lot of our rural communities that I never really had to get out and interact with very much, because my district was a very urban district. It was just a few square miles here in Phoenix and Glendale, but just being able to learn how to do things better. And I think that there's a lot we can learn, or as a statewide official, we can learn from the way our rural communities are managed themselves. And how like our tribal communities manage their finances. I think I could learn a lot from them as well. And so I think it's really about partnering with them and working as partners, working together to serve the people of those communities. And so that's been great to get out and just experience all of Arizona. And it's just a beautiful state. I mean, I've been amazed at how beautiful it is. All these drives have just been amazing.
Yeah, I'll agree with you with that. I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel throughout the state with my work. And you're absolutely right. Just listening to the different perspectives, the different challenges each community has, and then just the way that they go about addressing those challenges, right? That really ties into the uniqueness of each community. I know that you've been down to Cochise County a few times. I think you were at our Juneteenth event. I believe you've gone down to Douglas, and there's been some people on the ground down here with you. So just know people have really been working down here. So, okay, what do you feel Cochise County needs to know, right? If you had one message that you personally would say to Cochise County, not your closing statement, but that you want them to know about you, what would it be?
That I'm reliable, that I'm a man of my word, and my track record speaks for itself. And I would say talk to anybody that served with me, talk to anybody that's watched me work as a senator, as a representative, as a school board member. I'm proud of my track record. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of every vote that I've taken. I've never compromised my values. I've never compromised putting my constituents' needs before my own personal political needs. And I think a lot of politicians do that. And I'm proud that I've been able to avoid that and not have to do that. And the reason why I do that is because I treat every single day that I serve in public office as if it's my last day I'll ever serve. And when you do that, when you have that perspective, when you get home and you look at yourself in the mirror, you want to be proud of what you see. I don't want to be ashamed and said, man, I really sold out my community for that one, or I really did something for me instead of for them. I want to be proud of what I did. And so, and I don't want to go to bed and regret anything that I did or anything that I didn't do. And so that means I've had to take a lot of difficult votes. And sometimes, I vote for something that I know is the right thing, but it may not be the popular thing. But I know that it's going to help people, or I know that it's going to serve people, but it may not be the popular thing. So I've been able to maintain that perspective. And I truly 100% believe that my voting record reflects that. And I don't think there's very many elected leaders in Arizona that can say that as much as I can, and that's a big statement. There's a few, but I think there's fewer of us than there are of the other ones, Mm-hmm. And so that's what I take great pride in, is that every day I act with urgency and I act as if it's going to be my last day. And every day when I leave, I pretend like I'm never going to come back. And so when I do that, I want to be proud of what I did there.
All right, excellent. Well, Cochise County, this is Martin Quezada. He is running for Arizona State Treasurer. A lot of great information. Really just learning about that office, what it does, what it doesn't do, right? And that's always just as important to know. Go ahead and speak to the individuals in Cochise County. Give us your closing statement, Martin.
Yeah, no, I want to really thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and speak to Cochise County. It's always difficult to get out there, especially when I am expected to be in all of the other 14 counties as well, usually all at the same time. And so I appreciate an opportunity to do it virtually, even if but I'm always down to be there physically as well. But here's the thing. The treasurer's office flies under the radar. people don't pay attention to this office. People don't get excited about this office. And there's a lot of other really big races that are happening right now, and really important races. And so that might make you think that this office isn't as important. But I can tell you that it absolutely is. And I can tell you that my opponent is just as extreme as some of the other candidates that are out there campaigning for office right now. The only difference is this one's flying under the radar, so nobody notices it. But a lot of the actions that are being taken in this office are detrimental to the people of Arizona. They're detrimental to the management and the investment of our taxpayer dollars, and they're detrimental to the safety of our money. And this is your money. This is our money, and we should trust the person that's guarding that money. And so I want to have that opportunity to be that guard dog for your money, and to be responsible with your money, and to be a professional in that position. There's a lot more that we can do. There's a lot more that I want to do, and I'd love to come back and talk to you about all of that more. But please vote for Martin Quezada. My website's martinquezada.com, and we just saw it earlier. And I'd be honored to earn your votes. And when I say that, and this is my last statement, when I say I want to earn your vote, what I mean is that after election day is over, that's when I start earning it. That's when the work begins. And I'm going to earn your vote from that day forward. So that's what I'm hoping to have the opportunity to do.
Well, Martin, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming and speaking to Cochise County. Like I said, I'm going to hold you accountable if you win. We expect those programs here. All right. It's been a pleasure, everyone. Thank you so much. As I said, this is us wrapping up the Vista Votes series with Martin Quezada on the state in the larger races. So tune in this Thursday. We'll be interviewing Carolyn Humphrey, who's running for Sierra Vista City Council. All right. We look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you so much.